It's now 10 o'clock this morning. Welcome to the County of Newell Municipal Planning Commission meeting for February 20th, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Excused from the meeting. Neil needs an excuse, and so does Arno. Would somebody? And Dan, thank you. Ellen is here. Ellen is here. Hi, Ellen. So 3 councillors or MPC members are missing. So would somebody like to excuse them from the meeting, please? Greg?
Yes, I'll make that exclusion. Is that a word? Exclusion?
I don't know. You may have just...
I think I just made up a new word.
Thank you.
Right, yeah, if you could spell that for me, please, ladies.
Exclusion.
That would be great.
Neil, Arno, and Dan, excused. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. We have minutes in our package. How do you wish to handle them? Holly.
The minutes need an amendment. Neil was planning on being late, but he didn't actually make the meeting, so he'd need to be absent from that meeting.
Good point. Okay. So would you like to move as amended?
I will move them as amended.
Thank you. Okay. All in favor of Holly's motion? That is carried. Okay, before we go too much further, let's do a round of introductions. We do have visitors in the gallery this morning. And I'm going to start up on the screen with Ellen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ellen Unruh, and I'm from Division 7 around the village of Rosemary.
Thanks, Ellen. Amanda?
Good morning, Amanda Philpott, Division 8 around Dutchess.
Good morning, Greg Screever, Division 5, Lake Newell Resort and Castles area.
Morning, everyone. I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm a counselor for Division 6 around Bassano area, and I'll chair the MPC meeting.
Good morning. Welcome, Matt Fensky, CAO.
Good morning, Holly Johnson, Division 4, Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good morning, Adina Scandrip, Division 2, the area around the hamlet of Tilly, and including the hamlet of Tilly.
Good morning and welcome, Lynette Kopp, Division 3, the Patricia Millicent area.
Good morning, Catherine Siaklak, Communications Officer.
Cheryl Page, Planning and Development Administrative Assistant.
Hi, Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
Shannalee Simpson, Development Officer.
Hello, I'm Maria Jackson, Supervisor of Planning and Development.
Hey guys, I'm Jeff Tiffin, Manager of Planning Development and Engineering.
I'm Stuart Wong.
Deb Thomas.
Gordon Fingler.
Thank you. Moving along on the agenda, call for post-agenda items. Is there anything to add? Seeing nothing from staff, nothing from MPC members. Motion to accept the agenda then, please. Amanda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor of Amanda's motion? That is carried. Subdivisions, item 6.1. Shannalee will take that. Thank you.
Thank you. Development Permit 2025002 is an application for the request for a variance to the number of recreational vehicles allowed on a residential parcel in Ayamoto Acres. We're okay?
My bad. I introduced it as subdivision, Shannalee, so my bad.
Okay. In the residential rural district, 1 recreational vehicle is permitted on a parcel. The applicant is requesting a variance to this standard to allow for 3 recreational vehicles. There is currently 5 recreational vehicles on the parcel, but the applicant has indicated that 2 will be removed. This was brought to the attention of the Development Authority from an adjacent neighbor. The neighbor's concern was the number of RVs on the parcel, the permanent deck, and that the trailers are being used on a regular basis to house guests. That was brought to our attention in August of 2024. The applicant has identified that the RV with the deck is used by friends of the applicants for weekend use on the parcel. One of the other RVs is for family of the applicants to stay when they are visiting, and the third RV is a project where the applicant is restoring the RV. There was no issues or concerns from staff. There was one response from adjacent landowner, and there was no concerns with that response. There was no issues or concerns from the Bassano IDP. I've put 2 options. One option would be to approve the requested variance to allow 3 RVs on the parcel with conditions. Option 2 is to refuse the permit as it doesn't comply with the municipal development plan or the land use bylaw. Staff is recommending that the application be refused as the use is very similar to a campground, which is not a use in the rural residential land use bylaw. And Mr. Fingler is here to respond to questions.
Great. Thank you, Shannalee. Mr. Fingler, would you like to come forward? MPC, do you have questions? Our applicant is before us. Mr. Fingler, is there anything you would like to add to what Shannalee has already preempted us with?
Yes.
Okay.
I bought this property about 11 years ago, and I bought it because I like elbow room. I don't like visiting your neighbors 5 feet away from where you are. I like room. I have very little on my property. I have a house, I have a garage. That's pretty much the only permanent structures. A lot of bare land. And as you know, in Bassano, we get some wind, we get lots of things going on. So I've decided that when my friends came over on the weekends or something, they brought a motorhome with them. And they used the motorhome, and for some reason, it's not roadworthy. I was never told the specifics why, but it was given to me. So that's how it kind of started. And then I have friends from Calgary that come out, and they, sorry, my chair just dumped me. Come here. Oh, well, anyway. So they came out and they asked if they could come out. And this is about 8, 9 years ago. If they could come out on the weekends and spend some time out there. They're an older couple, 65 and 70. It's not like they're spring chickens anymore. They want a place to just have some peace and quiet. So I said, sure, no problem. They came out, they put their trailer there. I didn't have a trailer other than the motorhome that was given to me at the time. But my wife wants to camp. Can't use the motorhome. Bought a trailer. Needed a little bit of work, but it's in a process. It's gutted now on the inside, so we're fixing it up. Then I had a friend whose brother passed away, left his wife and daughter financially destroyed, took everything from them, lost everything. But this motorhome, or this fifth wheel, so my wife and I decided that we would purchase this fifth wheel to help them out. We could also use that to go camping while we're fixing this other one up. And then Deb and Stu, they bought a new trailer, a better trailer. For them, you know, a little more room, air conditioning, whatever. So they took the first trailer that they had, they put it aside, they put the second trailer in there. Now the first trailer was been up for sale for a while, not really. I guess it wasn't a really rush to get rid of it. But again, I didn't realize that there was a limit to what I was allowed to or wasn't allowed to have on my property. So with the 5 trailers that ended up being on my property, 1 is sold. Deb and Stu's is sold, so they will only have the 1. Mine, I have the motorhome and my redneck trailer, I call it, and my 5th wheel. And I've put them at the very back of my property in a little area so that when my kids, and I'll give you an example, I did the siding on my home this in August of this year. Well, one of my daughters and her boyfriend and children, grandchildren, came, and that's where they stayed while they were doing the siding in my home. They had a place to stay because unfortunately we only have 1 spare room in the home and I can't fit 4 people in a home. So this is one of the reasons why I have those trailers there, is because I have 7 kids, 13 grandkids. I have a lot of activity in the summer. We put up a pool, as you can see in the photo. I don't know if you can see, yeah, the air photo. No, air photo. That one. And it's got that pool right in the middle there. You know, they come out, they want to play in the pool, they want to do things. I have tons of land for them to play. I put even some swings and a jungle gym thing there on my property too. You can't see it, it's not in that photo, but you know, a little playground.
Mr. Fingler, you say tons of land. How many acres?
2.5 acres.
Thank you.
To me, that is a lot.
Yep.
But I came from a 7.98 acre
Get
property.
the facts out. You are in a residential subdivision, correct?
Yes.
Anybody have questions for Mr. Fingler? Adina?
I have a question. I'm not sure if it's for Mr. Fingler, but I'm just wondering, I know in the letter you say that the deck is not permanent, but according to our bylaws, the deck attached to a trailer, does that make it a more permanent structure?
Yes, the deck is not permanent. It was put on cement pylons in front of the trailer because, as you can see, getting in and out of trailers is a little bit of a difficulty for Stu. And Debbie has now gone through surgery on her knee. So again, having a little deck in front of your door on the weekends when you come out, that's what they do. They come out, they sit on their deck, they really don't do much. They just enjoy the weather or enjoy the peace, quiet, and they don't blast music, they don't have parties, they don't do anything. They just sit there and enjoy the company of everyone.
For Councillor Scandrup's question, staff, you can back me up on this if you like. Having a portable deck does not make the trailer permanent. And it's not about, I mean, if you read the information, it's not about permanency or non-permanency. It's about the number of trailers on the property and what our bylaw says and the complaint that was received, and that's why we're reacting to this. So stay focused on the purpose. Holly?
Good morning. A concern is that this becomes almost a campground, right? You have people coming out on the weekend, and you're saying you have trailers to come and stay at. So that creates issues for us because we have campgrounds, and campgrounds are an economic driver potentially for our county. So what would you say to response to that?
Well, when you have family come and visit you, where do they stay?
No, I'm not asking. I'm not having you ask me questions. I'm asking you to tell me how you feel about being considered a campground, which is a whole different thing than just having family stay. If you have people coming every weekend to stay, that sounds like a campground to me.
I understand, but it's not every weekend. It's usually 2 times a summer that the family comes out, and they will spend a weekend, or if it's a long weekend, whatnot, they'll come out. Even sometimes we can't get all 7 children to come out. It's only 1 or 2. But again, we don't have a place in our home for a family of 5, which we have 2 children that have family of 5. one family of 4. This way, it allows them to come out, have a little bit of their own space, so they're not dragging stuff through our house. That is why the purpose of that is there. It's not a campground. No one pays us to come and stay there. Stu and Deb don't even come out every weekend. But when they do come out, they'll come out on a Friday, they leave on a Sunday, or when Debbie is not working, because she is still working as a teacher, in summer break for her, they'll come out for a week. But they used to, anyway, go boating.
Okay, I'm going to pull us back to the purpose of this discussion. It is around the number of units on the 2.5 acre plot of land. Our bylaw says 1 per property. Is that correct, staff? Shanley? Shanley? Is that correct? Our bylaw says 1 per property?
That is correct.
Okay. Maria, did you want to add anything?
The current bylaw says in a residential parcel, 1 RV that can be utilized for a maximum of 14 days at a time.
Okay.
So there is the provision to allow people to stay in an RV on a residential property, but only 1 RV for that 14 days.
Okay. Lynette?
So in that bylaw, that would mean that that RV would need to be removed after 14 days. It's not one that stays sitting there and can be slept in for 14 days. Is that?
Maria?
Unless it's more than 1.
No, that's a good point. So each individual owner can have 1 RV as a storage. You know, if they have their own, then they can store it. So that was the idea with the 1 RV can stay. But if it's being utilized, regardless of who's using it or who owns it, the maximum stay is 14 days. The idea behind that is that it reduces the impact on adjacent landowners. We don't know who's using it or what the use is, right? So if there's a family reunion or whatever, could become noisy. So that's the reason there's a bit of a restriction. But each application has to be looked at on its own merits, I suppose.
Lynette?
One more tidbit that it says they're not hooked up to any power or anything. So what facilities get used? This is always the question on an acreage. Where's the sewer system and such too? So where are these sewers being dumped? Are they just being dumped there? I hope not.
Mr. Fingler?
Deb and Stu have a container that they can pull with their little golf cart that they have to my septic, and they dump it right into my septic on my property.
Okay, thank you. So this becomes a question of withholding or holding up our bylaw or making a variance. This is the question to MPC. Greg?
What is the intent of the one you're fixing up? Is that, so there's that, the motorhome that's there, right? That one you're fixing up to sell, it's going?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna get rid of that one.
Okay, so then we have a fifth wheel that you use, a newer one.
Yes.
And then then there's the one that, the couple here that uses it, that has the deck.
Yes.
And then there's another one that you are fixing up that you'll keep for when family comes. Is that right? Or what?
Well, I don't really have a use like for that one right at the point. Like it's just, you can't really sleep in it because we gutted it, right? Because my wife and I wanted to fix that up. But when my friend's brother passed, we wanted to help that family. Right. And, you know, we're getting a good deal on a fifth wheel. Okay. Right? So that's the one we camp in. The hillbilly one, I call it, because it's kind of jacked up high. We gutted it so that we could redo it and use that for camping. But when that came up, and then last year, July 26th, I injured my knee at work. So I've been off since that day. So this summer, while my siding and stuff was getting put on and all that kind of stuff. My family stayed in there.
Right.
But again, it's
Yeah.
going to be fixed up and when I can get it fixed and sold.
And sold.
So
Okay.
there really will only be 2 trailers on my property.
Right.
So you're asking a variance from 1 to 2?
Yes. Yeah.
To
But
be
the third
clear.
one I can't move until I get it fixed, and then I can sell it and get it out of there. And Stu and Deb have already sold the other trailer that they had, so it's just theirs and then our 5th wheel. Eventually, I just when I can get that one fixed up and sold.
So, more clarity needed?
Yeah, and I think this is something for maybe for staff or the rest of the council here. What on these bylaws have we made variances in the past? Is it something that has some kind of we don't want to set precedent because this is a unique situation, but you know, are variances something that can happen?
Who wants to take that? Maria? Shanley? Thank you.
There was the one recreational vehicle one that I had included in my report from 2022. It was a little bit different because we did, there was a variance provided, but it was for temporary use of the recreational vehicles to be on the parcel while they figured out what they were doing with their house. That's the direction we had for that. Generally, when I send a letter and say to a landowner saying you have too many recreational vehicles on your parcel, then they remove the additional, and that's where it ends. And it doesn't come to this.
Holly?
We did a variance in Bow City at a Bow City lot because they had 2 trailers and they had 3, and they asked for variance for 2 so they could build their house. And that was a number of years ago. No house got built, and they are now trying to sell the lot. So the variance we granted did not work out the way that it was intended. So that's my concern.
And that was the example you gave, Shanley. Thank you. Lynette?
My concern with giving a variance is that if all of the parcels all around there, all of those acreages did the same thing, we would basically have a campground
Yes.
at Eomoto Acres. So I am prepared to make the motion to go with staff's recommendation that they need to remove the extras.
Okay. Is that a motion? You are prepared? Okay, thank you. Just for clarity, are there any further questions? There is. Holly?
Would there be an option to apply to make another residence on that property for staff? Make it into permanent?
Maria?
An RV cannot be used as a dwelling, so that wouldn't work that way.
Lynette?
It was brought to us because a neighbor complained. So there's obviously a reason that this came to us, so.
It is completely visible from Highway 550, granted. And there are many neighbors in the subdivision, as it's a large subdivision. So yes, it's, if we were to vary, it would be a difficult situation, or could be. We have a motion on the floor. Our questions are exhausted, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? That is carried. Mr. Fingler, Shanley will meet with you after the meeting and clear up any further questions that you might have.
What did you vote on? For a yay or for a nay?
Shanley will explain it. There are conditions on the motion, and so she'll go through all of that with you. Okay. All right. Thank you for coming in. Nice to meet you. Have a great day. And moving along on our agenda, we have, is there any other business that we haven't, nothing? We had no post-agenda items. Is there a reason to move in camera? No request for in camera. Any questions in the queue, Catherine? Thank you. I'll adjourn this meeting. Yes, and 5 minutes. We'll reconvene promptly at 10:30 because we do have a delegation at 10:30. if we could come back together.
Come together
Mhm.
right now.
Not the moment for karaoke. Decorum.
Oh, sorry.
Holly, Greg, could we reconvene? We have a 10:30 delegation.
In a bucket.
Thank you. We just have a few formalities, gentlemen, and then we'll be with you, okay? Catherine, we're good to go? Good morning. I'd like to welcome you all to the County of Newell, February 20th, 2025 Council meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Excused from the meeting, Councillor Short, Councillor Reeve Dirksen, and Neil Johnson for a time period. And Ellen is on with us electronically. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Adina?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor of Adina's motion? That is carried. Thank you. We have minutes in our package. Are there any errors or omissions? Holly?
The minutes of last council meeting show Neil Johnson is present, but he didn't arrive until the afternoon. I believe it was 1:07 according to the minutes, so he probably should show as absent until that time.
Okay. Did you want to move the minutes as amended?
I will move the minutes as amended.
All in favor of Holly's motion? That is carried. Are there any post-agenda items that anyone would like to add? Seeing none, an adoption of our agenda, please. Amanda?
I will adopt the agenda.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion to adopt the agenda? That is carried. Any questions in the queue, Catherine? No? Thank you. We have a delegation here. We're just about 4 minutes late. Sorry about that, gentlemen. Stuart, if you'd like to come forward. Sorry?
8.2, fire bylaw.
Okay, 8.2.
Good morning, Deputy Reeve and Council. Thank you for having me today. So over the last little while, I've been doing a review of our 1958-19 fire bylaw that was created back and approved by Council in 2019. The review, upon doing the review, it became clear that significant updates were needed to ensure the bylaw aligns with the current emergency services standards and the best practices. During the review, it was observed that a number of updates were required, which include general housekeeping, title changes and things like that, position changes, and the introduction of additional measures throughout the bylaw as summarized in the document you have today. To kind of make it brief, the bylaw before you this morning has a total of 25 additions or changes that were made. There were 3 deletions, which include incinerator fire, outdoor fire, and structure fire, and they were all replaced with the new definition fire. The most notable changes are the 12 new definitions, the introduction of the fireworks and the burn barrel permit requirements and restrictions, and the creation of regulations and distances set out in Schedule A and the new Schedule C. The primary goal for the update in the fire bylaw is to ensure fire safety protocols improve emergency response measures and effectively address emergency risks. And an essential aspect of this update is to align the fire permit requirements with the current, with the content and the fines outlined in the bylaw, because before the three really didn't marry together all that well. The permit had some stuff in it to the fire bylaw, to the fines that needed to be implemented. So we wanted to ensure consistency throughout all three areas. So I'd like to recommend that the County of Newell approve the first reading of this fire bylaw 2089-25, and I'm more than happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you, Stuart. We have questions for Stuart on this bylaw. Holly?
Good morning. The first thing was just, I'm wondering if stronger language is needed. On number 14, you have no person shall ignite debris placed in a burn barrel within any hamlet located in the county. I didn't actually understand you were not allowing burn permits, burning in burn barrels until I actually got to the monetary fine part. So I just maybe a little slow, but that didn't mean that to me. I thought maybe stronger language saying, you know, no burning barrels allowed in hamlets or something, so it's clear to people. And then I was curious about when you describe a fire pit and you have all it doesn't state, I just didn't find it, they need to have a grate over it, but your diagram has a grate. So which is correct?
For the burning barrel, thank you for that thought, and we definitely can put some consideration to putting stronger language in there. It may be a little bit earlier in the document. As for the recreational fire pit, definitely a retention screen should be on top of a recreational fire pit. And if that language is not there, maybe it got missed or just got deleted for some reason. So we can certainly make an amendment and a change to that as well.
Holly?
With the fire pit, and I'm not a fire pit owner, so I don't know much about fire pits, but don't people have a fire pit for the evening so they can keep putting more wood in? Is that still feasible if you've got a big heavy grate on it?
The grate isn't designed to be heavy. It's meant to be a spark retention screen is what it's for, right? So as the fire burns, we don't want those ambers escaping up into tree lines and stuff like that. That's why we set those distances and clearances around the fire pit. So anything that's burning within the fire pit doesn't escape out of that device. And the screen isn't meant to be heavy by any means. It should be in some way that it's easy to remove and put back on as you put fire or the logs back into the fire pit or the clean wood.
Any further questions? Lynette?
It was the list under approved debris, 2.2.7, it says, or 6 and 7, it says wood material from the construction or demolition of buildings which does not contain wood preservatives and household solid waste materials excluding prohibited debris. Do we actually have a list of prohibited debris somewhere?
Yes, in section 222 is prohibited debris, and it lists out what those prohibited debris are.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Okay, Holly?
This bylaw was passed in 2019, and I was not on council, but I do recall hearing about it, that they were going to look at permits for burning barrels in rural areas, and I heard a fair bit of opposition to that. Was that why it was not included in the 2019 version?
I can speak to that. Ellen, if you'd like to also speak to it. We were on council at that time, and we felt that permitting barrels would be too big of a job within the county to go around and permit burn barrels. I see it's back. I know you got a staff member coming towards the department. How good is a permit? Burn barrels burn out, they degrade. So does that mean you're coming back every 3 years to look at this barrel to see if it's still in burning? Where's the responsibility of the landowner when he starts a fire? That's my question.
Yeah, the purpose of the burn barrel is a one-time permit, and that's just simply so that we as fire guardians within the County of Newell know where these burn barrels are, because they do tend to burn rubbish, debris that burn hot. So it's more of a just knowing where they are within the County of Newell. It was only a one-time permit, and the regulations to what a burn barrel should be are in the bylaw. So it should be the responsibility of the owner to know that if his burn barrel is degrading, it's time to change that burn barrel. And I don't think it should be policed by us. Now, the opposite side of that is, could it be an extra workload on bylaw? It probably could end up being that way, just simply because if we don't have record of a burned barrel within that area and a complaint, there's a follow-up that has to happen, and it may put a bigger workload, not necessarily on the fire guardians, but bylaw officers.
Absolutely. And let's be real about a burn barrel. It can be moved into place for today and moved into another place tomorrow. So how good is that information? You put on your permit that the burn barrel is 20 feet from the pump house and 45 feet north of the dugout or whatever. I get that, but that burn barrel can be moved in an instant. And so are they, as a ratepayer, are we out of compliance then when that burn barrel? Yeah.
Yeah,
so
100%.
We're setting our ratepayers up for a huge shift in how they operate here.
But then it's a lot like a recreational fire pit where I'm concerned, because recreational fire pit within an acreage could move from, one spot in the backyard to another spot and so on. I think the objective is to, if the permit is pulled, we know that the landowner has an understanding of what the necessary clearances are for a burn barrel, what needs to go into the retention screen to the burn barrel, and things like that. So to me, it's kind of an educational piece as well as an information piece for the different fire areas. And if a fire were to happen, as it's happened in years past, in Division 4 is one that I think of, where definitely was not within compliance and caught the whole yard on fire to the corrals and things like that. So we're trying to mitigate that, and by doing that one-time permit, I think that might assist us or help us with that. And if a fire were to happen that wasn't code compliant to what's in the document, then at least we would have grounds for levying a fine for the fire department being out there and things like that.
So I know a lot of our grass fires are caused, I think, most often by sparks off the highway or something as such. What are we seeing comparing fires that are caused by burning barrels versus controlled burns? What are we seeing?
I don't have a good answer for that. I haven't done a study to say, where are the most causes coming from, right? Is it an uncontrolled field burn, or did it start from a burned barrel? I can say from experience being at burn barrels, they're not high on the list, but they do happen.
Neil and then Greg.
Yeah, this seems like a huge task. Like, you might have 1,000 burn barrels out there. Can we even look after that or police that? Or I kind of agree with what Kelly was saying. We're setting our ratepayers up for, and you guys up for a huge task over burn barrels.
Greg?
Regarding the burn barrels, I think it's important that our ratepayers are aware that there are rules behind burn barrels. So to be within a certain distance from trees and from buildings and things like that, I think it's important. And with the permit, it does bring it. It's not like I can't see a fire chief going out there and inspecting every burn barrel. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but it's going to make the ratepayers aware that there are rules behind it, and I think it's an important piece. So I do agree with the bylaw change to make sure that it is permitted. Now, as far as fire pits, are they I might have missed it, but are they to be permitted also? And if not, how come they're not?
Stuart?
I don't have a great answer. No, they're not permitted, and we just felt that not permitting them. I don't have a good answer for that one. Why we don't permit it.
And I'm not pushing for the permit but I think in the same instance, I think there may be an educational piece needs to go out to our hamlets to say, yeah, there are rules behind fire pits, and maybe, just maybe, as far as the burn barrel goes, maybe it's an education piece also rather than a permit. I'm kind of back and forth on that. So.
Holly?
I would also speak in favor of the burn barrel permit being removed from this bylaw. I think the education is important, I agree. But I think most of our average ratepayers are responsible, law-abiding people who try to do the right thing. And there will always be people who choose not to follow what's smart. And you can't legislate stupidity out of people. It just doesn't work. So I think we're better off you going down the road of education.
And the educational piece is going to be set in motion here. We definitely, because this bylaw has gotten much bigger, need to do educational pieces on, for instance, burn barrels not being allowed in hamlets, fireworks displays and what those distances need to be, and things like that. So there definitely will be a huge educational through social media and public engagement on this fire bylaw.
Lane?
If I might, we do acknowledge that there is lots of burn barrels that are out there. There's no question about that. In recommending that they be subject to the requirement for a permit, we're in no way suggesting that we would start going out and visiting each farmyard to make sure that they have a permit. It would be complaint driven, and if there's a need for us to follow up, the opportunity is there to go out, meet, say, make sure that what they have in place meets the standard that has been outlined in the bylaw. But we're not proposing that there would be an immediate process put in place to start visiting yards and making sure that the permits are there.
So no blitz. It won't be on the calendar of things to do in the year. Well, you're asking for first reading at this time. How does council want to proceed on this topic? Adina?
I would also like to see the burning barrel permit removed. I feel that there's so much the fire chief needs to do already that even if it was complaint driven, I just feel like we just really seem to be regulating everything, and so I would like to see it removed.
Greg?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. The permit does not suggest that we still can't find someone if the fire department has to go out there and we find that the burn barrel is too close. We can still find them. The same way whether it was permitted or not permitted. I think that the permitting is going to just be taxing for the staff and taxing for the ratepayer, every ratepayer to to do the permit. I think that's a little bit excessive, and I do agree that the permit not be required, but the rules be in place, and that's what we have here. If we do the permit on the burn barrels, we should be doing a permit on the other. So it's not one or the other. I think it's on both. So
I'm hearing maybe a comeback. Holly?
Yeah, I would like to move option 2. I know when we had the animal bylaw, we went with first reading with some changes needed, and it definitely caused us some issues with people not understanding. And I'd like this to be really clear. There's a lot of great things in here, Stuart. Like the burning barrel thing, I think, is a sticking point. But all in all, I think it's a very well-written document.
Matt?
So just to recap what administration has heard coming from council, and direction, if we can get a motion to the effect of directing administration to remove the permit provisions required for burning barrels. And the other item was making it more clear that burning barrels are not allowed in hamlets. And the mesh screen for the recreational fire pits. Those will be the 3 items that our fire chief focuses on for edits coming back, and an amended bylaw will come for first reading next meeting. Is that fair?
Holly has a question.
I just had a quick clarification from you, Stuart, in regards to that mesh on the fire pits. I'm still kind of stuck on that, because are we not looking at potential for more burns? I know it shouldn't be, but I'm just concerned. I'm thinking of people throwing in wood and then pulling it off, kids around to put more wood in. Is that not a concern?
Stuart?
It is a concern, but my bigger concern is not having a fire spreading past that fire pit. So if an owner wants to have a recreational fire pit, I think we need to have the retention screen on there. And if the retention screen's on there, then owners should take necessary precautions, like pulling something out of the oven, to remove that retention screen to put the wood back on.
Okay. Greg?
So no more roasting marshmallows or hot dogs.
Got to be creative. Got to make that grate big enough. Okay, we have a motion. Someone needs to make a motion. Lynette can do it. Okay. Lynette, what is your motion?
Option 2, with all of the things that Matt listed.
Added. Okay. All right. I did hear that from Holly as well, so I just wanted to be clear. We'll take your motion, Lynette, because it sounds... Any further comments, questions? I'll call the question on the motion. All in favor? That is carried then. All right, thank you, Stuart. Lane, thanks for coming in. We are 5 minutes away from our 11 o'clock delegation. Gentlemen, would you like to come forward and take a stab at it? That is item 8.3, I believe. Okay.
Good morning, Deputy Reeve and Council. I'm here to present a request for decision to rescind the following policies as we're putting it into using the lean principle strategy, putting all this into one policy manual. And the policies I'm asking to look at rescinding are the use of the baton, code of conduct with community peace officers, complaints against community peace officers, the emergency response pursuit, and the enforcement on 1 and 2 digit highways, the OC spray, the use of it, and the records management system. Again, these being repealed or rescinded will still all be in our operational manual, but the difference will be that it's all under, again, using the lean principle, all under one manual that the SOLGEN has told us that we can do, and then we will not also doing the formal process of keeping to present to you guys, council, all these operational needs, again, because we weren't sure about that before, but SOLGEN has confirmed that we do not need to do that as a process. So bearing that in mind, that's why I'm here today, to start that process to ask about rescinding these following policies, to put them all into one.
Okay, and just for, sorry, John.
No,
just
go ahead,
for
I'm done.
Council's clarity, we are on 12.2 rather than 8.3. So we're on the rescinding of bylaws.
Correct.
And
Yep.
one motion will work for this, John? Is that? Okay, oh, they're policies, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on the recommendation from John to rescind? Nope. Somebody like to make the motion? Option 1?
I'd like to make that motion for option 1.
Okay. All in favor of Greg's motion? That is carried then.
Thank you, council. And I'll present Randy, Officer Burgess here to present the other traffic bylaw matter.
Okay. 8.3, council.
Morning, council. So the second request for decision that we're bringing forward relates to a customer service request that we received as a department of a person wanting to move to one of the hamlets and park her school bus in the hamlet at her address. When we reviewed the current bylaw, which was passed in 2023, we discovered that school buses were prohibited in the hamlets, even though there was quite a few school buses already parked in the hamlet. The bylaw actually prohibited them from being in the hamlet. So today we're bringing forward an RFD to remove that prohibition and add school buses to an approved parking within the hamlets. So the additions that we're suggesting is adding a definition under 1 sub AA of a school bus, which it just simply means the same as in the provincial act under the commercial vehicle safety regulation. And then adding under section 6 sub 1, which is the exemptions from parking permits, adding school buses to one of those exemptions. So that will allow people to park their school buses within the hamlets on private property, so park it within the boundaries of their property. There's another section further down in the bylaw that will still remain in the bylaw that prohibits them from parking on the street in the hamlets. They'll only be allowed to transverse from the approved school bus route to their residence, park it on their private property, not on the street, and then back to the approved school bus route. So our recommendation today is for council to give first reading to this new traffic bylaw. The purpose of just giving first reading is that after the first reading, we want the opportunity to advertise and let people who live in hamlets have their say in whether they feel that a school bus is appropriate to be parked in the hamlets, covering off noise and the bus idling and things like that. So option 1 is what we're recommending, first reading, and then we'll do some public consultation and then bring it back for second and third reading.
Thank you. Are we covered if, say, I'm in a hamlet, this is hypothetical. I'm in a hamlet, there's a vacant lot next to me, and there's 3 other bus drivers in the hamlet, and they want to park their buses on the lot next to me. A cluster of buses, is that covered? I see that in some places where they cluster buses, because they're not allowed to park them in front of their properties or whatever, so they will cluster them. Are we covered if a cluster of buses happens?
Covered in what way?
Covered in the bylaw.
I'm not sure if this answers the question, but I can say right now with the current bylaw, an example you just gave is that the short answer would be you could see more than one bus with the current bylaw parked if they're parked on an approved parking area in the hamlet. Like I'll use Rolling Hills for an example. If you use the Rolling Hills Highway, the county has made that parking space available right off the highway, which was in the hamlet of Rolling Hills. Well, the buses parked there would be allowed, so you could have, again, asking your example, more than one bus parked there, and again, on truck routes where, you know, you can park, but so again, in an essence, you could have, with the existing bylaw, that happen.
Okay. Just not sure that would be an ideal situation for me if I lived in a hamlet having 3 or 4 buses run at 6 in the morning, but just raising the idea. Greg?
So out at Lake Newell Resort, there's some condominium association bylaws along with this bylaw, and it addresses campers and trailers and things being parked on private property and things. So just a question, how does the bylaw and the bylaws of the condo association, how do they mesh? You know, like what do we do in that situation?
Matt has the answer.
Yeah, so these are totally separate. Condo association is a separate legal entity. They can set whatever bylaws they want. They are responsible for enforcing their own bylaws. This is a source of some common confusion with our lot owners who happen to be part of condo or homeowners associations down there, but condo's responsible for its regulations, county's responsible for our own. But there is no coordination between the two.
Holly?
I'd like to move first reading of bylaw 2093-25, the traffic bylaw as presented.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor of Holly's motion? That is carried.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Sergeants, would you like to come forward? Good morning. Welcome to our council meeting. Thanks for coming in, Sergeant Joe. Sorry, yeah, I had heard that you are broken. Yeah. We have Councillor Ellen Unruh on screen. She's in a warmer climate.
We're getting there too.
And country as well, so lucky her. I don't think we need introductions, right? You've been here several times, so. Sure. All right. There's no skill testing questions, so.
We didn't bring any of those either.
All right, that's great. Who wants to kick it off? On our agenda, we have Sergeant David up first. Would you like to go?
Absolutely. So this is the RCMP report for Brooks Detachment, covering the months of October, November, and December of 2024. During those months, we responded to 467 calls for service in the county of Newell. We lodged a total of 95 prisoners and conducted 116 criminal record checks for county residents. We also issued 106 violation tickets. Some miscellaneous investigations and events from those months include on the 12th of October, we responded to a complaint of a theft of a motor vehicle which occurred on a farm near Tilly. It was a white GMC Sierra truck. The truck was stolen. It had 200-liter plastic barrels in its bed. That vehicle was later recovered unoccupied in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. On October 12th, we received a report of a overdue hunter. The individual was dropped off with his boat near Dinosaur Provincial Park in the morning, and he was to be picked up at the Jenner Campground around 5 p.m. When he failed to arrive, the friend contacted police for help, so We went out there with the help of the Jenner Fire Department and some drones and some volunteer firefighters. We searched the area, and the hunter was safely located later on by the Jenner Fire Department. On November 16th, we responded to a serious collision on Highway 542 and the intersection of Highway 36. Unfortunately, during that collision, one of the occupants of the vehicle succumbed to their injuries, and that file is currently under investigation. On December 9th, we received a 911 call about an impaired driver pulled over on Highway 873. We responded to the scene, found a bunch of empty beer cans in the vehicle. The driver was slurring his speech, and there was a strong odor of alcohol coming from him. We did an approved screening device test on the driver, and he refused to provide a sample. He was arrested and issued provincial sanctions and had their vehicles seized and issued some fines. On December 24th, we received a report of a large theft from the Royal Helium production out near Princess. Some unknown suspects cut a large hole into the side of the building and removed several large and expensive pieces of equipment. These items are pretty unique, and that investigation is still ongoing. And later on that day, December 24th, we attended a residence in Tilly for a report of a male threatening people with a weapon. The involved parties were all known to each other. The male fled the residence on foot prior to our arrival. We ended up locating him nearby in a field where he resisted his arrest, and he was transported back to our detachment and brought before Justice of the Peace and remanded into custody. We've charged him, a 25-year-old male from Medicine Hat, with 3 counts of assaulting a peace officer, 3 counts of assault with a weapon, 3 counts of uttering threats, and 2 counts of mischief, and 1 count of resisting arrest. And that is my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for that. Ellen, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question. For some clarification, I understand that there were 467 calls for service in the county and 95 prisoners in 3 months. I'm perplexed. Is this really true?
Yeah, absolutely. And those numbers are pretty consistent across the board. The prisoners do include all prisoners that we lodge in our cells. And so that would be files from Brooks or files from the County of Newell. Sometimes we take in prisoners for assisting agencies or other detachments, but typically each month we have about 30 prisoners in our cells.
Any other questions? Good question, Ellen. Holly?
What's the advantage of refusing a breathalyzer and being charged that way as opposed to getting an impaired charge?
There's zero advantage to doing that. Like, you're required by law to provide that sample. So by refusing, you're breaking another law. So, and you know, at the time of the demand, you're advised of that. So there is no advantage at all to doing that. Maybe.
Any other questions? I guess one comes to mind while you're up. How's it working out with Bassano? Are you still working together? Are you still speaking? Is that all good?
It's really hard to answer that with Joe right here.
I know. I thought maybe you're sitting a little close because you do have long arms, but.
It's been great, and I mean, it helps that Joe and I have worked together for so long. We get along really well, but even if it was somebody else in either position, you know, we've got this situation down to a science now. It's benefiting both detachments and all residents of the places we police, so no complaints yet.
Awesome. Just an off-the-cuff question. All right, Sergeant Joe, you're up.
Yeah, so far it's, yeah, the whole working together has been really beneficial on both sides. As we're noticing kind of through some of our crime trends and some of the property crime that's happened in this last month and these preceding ones, it's not happening between, you know, office hours sort of thing. It's that midnight to 6 a.m. witching hour that they're coming and doing, and having this kind of current working with Brooks right now, that 24/7 schedule allows for that in the patrols and stuff. So that's been very beneficial to us. Through October to December, some of the files we can't get into, I can't really get into because we had quite a few domestic and mental health related calls. So can't get into specifics with that. Largely from Bassano, ours has been dealing with the weather and the highways. For those 3 months, we had a fatality on December 7th. Out near Clooney. And then it's been mainly road conditions, and we've had to shut down the highways a few times as far as that regards. In late or early October, we did have a theft of about $20,000 worth of tools from a house that was being renovated. That file was investigated, and we seized a bunch of evidence from that. And couldn't come up with any suspects or anything like that. And we sent it off to our crime analyst to try and notify some trends coming from that. Short of that, we took about 195 calls between those 3 months in Bassano. Did about 45 speeding tickets, working with Red Cliff Traffic Unit for traffic enforcement on that end. But largely our time's been spent highway patrols and digging people out and that sort of thing from there. But yeah, so far everything's been going not too bad.
So last time I think it was cattle on the highway, and I've seen pictures this time of 3 dogs running down the number 1. It was all over the place. So just people like to have their animals run down Highway 1 beside Bassano, or what is that?
It seems to be, I'm getting very good at herding the cattle. I've been it's been my knack for the last little bit. Formed some partnerships with some local ranchers for the cattle. The dogs, we've had 3 reports in the last 2 weeks on Highway 550. It seems to be one little herd of dogs, and we can't catch them by the time we get there. Nobody else is. They're not coming for kibble. I had a person chasing them with pepperoni last week. Still wasn't able to do it. But yeah, that seems to be a bit of a trend in the last 2 weeks down on 550. There seems to be a little herd, but they're not affecting anybody's animals. We checked with some of the local guys, so.
According to the pictures, they're well fed.
Yeah, they're portly. You'd think they'd be easy to catch, but maybe in short bursts of distance, they can outrun us.
And your complement of officers, you're up to snuff now?
Yeah, we are up to snuff. We got a new recruit, Constable Mulvihill. She came on January 29th, so she's just starting her field coaching process. So that's, if everything goes well and according to plan, that's a 6-month process. She's paired up with Constable Lim as her field coach for the first 2 months, so they ride together, and then she goes on her own, and then the supervision gets a little bit further from that. But fully confident. She's great cadet, invigorated and enthused. She comes, turns out I've worked with all her family and parents in the Lower Mainland. They're all 30, 40-year RCMP members, so she comes from a good stock that way. So yeah, we're up to snuff. We're up to 4 members now, including her as far as constables, and then myself, and then Steph in the office. So it's nice to have everybody in.
Good. Now get you healed up and back.
Yeah, until I slipped on my dumpster and broke my thumb. So surgery's healing. I'm hoping the doctor will sign me off here in a month or so to be able to back to operational, but there's lots of admin stuff to do in the meantime.
Thank you. Sergeant David, how's your complement?
We're good right now. We're, we have hard vacancies and soft vacancies. So the difference being hard is an unfilled position, and soft would be anything from medical, maternity leave. We have some members off on illness right now, and 1 position that's unfilled, but we're doing pretty good. No concerns with the numbers.
Good. Any other, Lynette?
In your community report, you go into the schools and you've been to the Hutterite colonies. Do you ever go to any of the Mennonite schools and just interact with?
For the Bassano area, we don't have any Mennonite schools that we go into at all. Ours is just largely with the Hutterite ones. Out of the list of 12 I have, I don't have any Mennonite schools in our area. But I think there's a couple outside in Tilly, that sort of area as far as them, but
There's also, there's one in Patricia and there's one by Duchess as well.
Yeah, primarily go to the grassland schools in the county, but like we will go to any school upon request, and certainly I can make note of that and make sure that we're touching base with the schools, which, like, our school resource officer position's vacant right now, but I know that the unit that it's attached to follows up with all the schools at the beginning of the year and just reaches out and gives them our contact information to, if they need anything from us, so.
Seeing no further questions, thank you as always for your dedicated service, and bring on spring, right? I bet nobody's more excited about spring than you guys. We're excited. Thank you so much for your service. Oh, one more question comes to mind, and that is, if you had an opportunity to ask a question of K Division, do you have a question for them? We are meeting with, have the opportunity to meet with K Division, and I mean, without giving your names, we could ask some questions.
That's really putting us on the spot.
Okay,
but
sorry.
That being said, our district is very supportive, and I'm not just saying that. They're very supportive of us. If we need something and it makes sense, then we typically get it, and if not, then they're fighting for us, like I said, if it makes sense. So I don't really have a question. Joe might, but
I usually more have comments than questions sometimes with them. But I found, like, even coming from like E-Division for a long time and now here, I'm very much surprised at the open communication they have. Like, that we're never left hanging if we have a request or clarifications or, you know, an idea for guidance. It's an open door, and like I say, I'm not doing that to blow smoke or anything like that either. So any question that we would have, if it hasn't been asked, it'll probably be asked shortly of them, and they address it fairly quick on our end. And even when the concerns come from you guys or any questions from us that maybe we want some more background on, they're quite open with sharing that with us as well. So it's pretty good in that regard. Sometimes we always don't get what we want, but it never hurts to ask. So.
Good answer. And if anything comes up, you've got our email addresses.
Absolutely.
Adina?
I was just going to say, Joe and I are neighbors, so if you just wanted to slip me a question one day, Joe, that would be it.
An anonymous box. With Roxy.
how about jet skis? Can you ask?
Yeah.
For jet skis?
Gee.
Oh, great. Now our own guys are going to want jet skis too.
Yeah.
It's for the people.
It's a snowball effect, you know,
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
you get something, yeah. Thank you again so much for your time and for coming in and chatting with us. Much appreciated. Have a good day. We have 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll get Todd up there.
Okay, Todd, 10.1, Ag Services. We have a pretty tight schedule here, Mr. Green, so your show is shortened today.
9 minutes. It's all good. I learned two of the most important things today. Number one, we're getting jet skis. And number two, in my division, there's an open comment box at Adina's house. And this is probably the most important things I learned all day so far.
You have to get past the black and white dog, though, and she bites.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Well, I'm just here today to bring a few policies up for review. You guys all had the wonderful opportunity to look through and see the markups as well as what they look like when they're clean. So happy to say there's not a whole bunch of changes, but the soil conservation policy, initially put that in place in 2021 with direction and support from the Soil Erosion and Degradation Advisory Committee, a great group of ratepayers that helped us through that process. I think it certainly has helped on the staff side of things for when we're having conversations with people, and it's helped give us some clarity when we're having to fix things in the field. So there was some very minor edits in that one, almost nothing, and I would be happy to have that one continue. We're probably never going to be out of the woods in soil erosion, and to be fair, 2021 was probably a few years too late to have that for staff to work through. Oh, yes.
Feels about how council feels about that policy, and maybe we have a motion. Lynette?
I'll make the motion for policy 05625.
All in favor of that motion? That is carried.
My apologies. I was just going to rip through them like crazy. I was on my 8 minutes.
Yeah, well, we're going to steal a little bit of that.
Sounds good. The seed cleaning plant policy, inspection policy, it's very basic. It just outlines the need for us to commit resources to inspect and certify those, I guess, 3 currently private seed cleaning plants.
How long have we been doing that?
Since the inception of the Weed Control Act, I think. It's always been, it's been, as long as I've been here, it's been going, and it's been made up as part of the Weed Control Act for a long, long time. Yeah.
Motion? Lynette? Oh, question?
Actually, I have a question. So what do they do with how do they dispose of the things that are not supposed to be in the seeds? And is that part of the Weed Control Act that you alluded to?
It's loosely as part of the Weed Control Act, because technically in the Weed Control Act, you're not allowed to move or transfer something that may or potentially may spread weed seeds or regulated weed seeds. So there's the 3 different guys have 3 different mechanisms of destroying the weed seeds. Our recommendations to them, and it's really up to them to do. But we try to get them to bring them to I'm trying to think of a company like a feed mill or a processor. In the past, they've gone through a process where they're steamed and squashed, so then their seeds are left unviable. The one, I believe, sells it to a producer, and they're ran through a hammer mill. Also another great way to break the seeds and make them unviable. So that's our hope, is that the seeds are not viable after they're done, and we have those conversations with them. Good question.
Yep. Motion to approve or deny? Adina?
Make a motion, we approve that.
All in favor of that motion? That is carried.
All right, number 3, sale of strychnine and phostoxin went through a major overhaul, mostly because we currently don't have access to strychnine, so we had to remove all of that. We also changed one of the number, I should have had that open. My apologies, hang on. Down at the bottom, for when we're selling phostoxin, we just wanted to change the wording of number 4. And I think it was easy enough to do. We combined number 4 and number 5 together, which is essentially just saying we don't want to sell the product for a purpose that it's not intended to be sold to. So if somebody tells us they're going to be using phostoxin for something that's off-label, we don't want to have that product be in their hands, because it's a very dangerous product, and we want people to be using it appropriately. So that's why that's in there. So essentially, the sale of strychnine and phostoxin becomes just sale of phostoxin.
All right. Neil?
I'll move that.
All in favor of that motion? That is carried.
All right.
Moving on, Todd.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
Roadside brush control, it's a kind of a cooperative program between AS and MS. Municipal Services takes out the trees. We spray them so they don't come back. No real change, no real discussion points on that one.
Holly?
Our problem spot's mostly identified by staff or by ratepayers calling in for needing some clarity, being able to see?
Yeah, I think both. We get the Newell connects from people. If there's an intersection that needs to be, some trees moved back on, probably our grader operators would know the problem spots the best, just because they're the ones that are moving the snow off the road where trees are encroaching and getting, the banks start being problematic. But to be fair, I don't know all, I know the ones that come to me, but I don't know all the ones that go to Jolene and Municipal Services. But Newell Connect is really good at outlining those. If anybody out there wants to do a Newell Connect, those are good ones.
Holly?
I'd just like to move approval of policy 059.25, roadside brush control.
All in favor of Holly's motion? That is carried.
All right, our mowing policy just outlines some basic levels of service for our two different mowing programs, the local road mowing and the hamlet mowing. And there really wasn't anything in there that I seen as a service level adjustment that needed to be proposed. So kind of status quo. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Seeing no questions, a motion? Amanda?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, you're approving the policy. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. A question? Sure.
I know the motion's already been approved, but Todd, as far as the mowing goes and the weed control along the roads, does that include the pathways too? Does the pathways, are they a road or?
So anything that's got the County of Newell on title, we're happy to entertain maintaining those. So will we have County of Newell on title for those pathways?
And one final one, I think.
Yeah, and this is the 100-Year Farm Awards. This was a council directive many years ago. I think it was probably like the third year I was here. And it was a great idea that was brought forward that we wanted to celebrate centennial farms in the county. So we put this policy together. We've advertised it multiple times. And I honestly think that we just have a lot of humble, wonderful farms that didn't want to be celebrated publicly because we've never had a single person come forward to get a wonderful plaque. We even bought a few things because we anticipated that 2014, there was kind of that stretch where there was a few farms that we thought were turning 100. And anyways, there's still a beautiful clock in my office if anybody wants it.
Thanks, Todd. Holly?
I actually I had no idea this policy existed, which maybe isn't good since I'm a counselor, but I had no idea. I actually would like it not to be rescinded and advertised. I know of several farms in the Scandi area that I would love to nominate. So actually I would be against rescinding it because I'd like to make use of it for some of our ratepayers.
Neil?
Yeah, just a question. Does the operation have to stay on the same location for 100 years? Because there's quite a few that have been around for 100, but they haven't lived on the original quarter.
Yeah, and I think it does change things a little bit. And I think when the original policy, this is an updated policy. The original one was had to be on the same homestead. But I think we changed that over the years to just be a centennial or a century-old farm. So no, I guess it would not have to be.
That does make a huge difference.
Well, it does open it up to a few more than we would currently have on a homestead, but it would still be one more applicant than we've ever gotten if one person came in.
So, Holly, would you like to make a motion to update this policy?
I would love to make that motion.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor of Holly's motion?
You don't have to be sorry. It just, we've never used it. So I thought, well, what's the point of having the paperwork if we've never used it? So I'm happy to continue on. And do we want to have me to bring this forward again, or is this just going to be approved as going forward?
It was approved as delivered here.
Oh, all right. We'll keep her in the queue then. And yeah, if there's any more questions about that one on how to get the award to somebody, let me know.
Thank you. Holly?
Is there an actual nomination form, or you just need a name and some information?
We would just need some sort of proof that they've been in operation for 100 years.
Fabulous.
Okay. As it's 10:30, I'm gonna, 11:30, sorry. I've been watching the clock and it's now a little bit late, so I'd like to give you the boot and carry on with our public hearing, please. And we're moving back up the agenda to item number. Tell me again, Amanda? 8.1, thank you. 7.1? Yes, okay, so I will entertain a motion to move in camera.
Public hearing.
Sorry.
I'd like to
public
make a
hearing.
motion that we move into public hearing.
Thank you. Confused, not much, hey? All in favor of Adina's motion? That is carried. We are now in public hearing. And we do have visitors, I believe, for the public hearing, so we will do a quick round of introductions. And then I'll go into the rules of the public hearing. We'll start with you, Neil.
I'm Division 10 Councillor Neil Johnson.
Good morning, Amanda Philpott, Division 8 around Dutchess.
Good morning, Greg Screever, Division 5, Lake Newell Resort and Castles area.
Ellen, would you like to go, please?
Good morning. I'm Ellen Undra, and I represent the area around the village of Rosemary.
And hi, folks. I'm Kelly, and I'm your counselor, and I'll chair this meeting today.
Well, welcome, Matt Fensky, CAO.
Good morning, Holly Johnson, Division 4, Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good morning, Adina Scandrup, Division 2, the Hamlet of Tilly and surrounding area.
Catherine?
Catherine Siakla, Communications Officer.
Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
Hello, I'm Maria Jackson, Planning and Development Supervisor.
I'm Jeff Tiffin. I manage the Planning, Development, and Engineering departments.
We're Les and Lori Lunseth from Bassano.
Thank you and welcome. Okay, good morning. I call this public hearing to order and will provide a brief outline for the formal hearing process. The purpose for a public hearing is to ensure there is an orderly process for council to receive input from everyone who wishes to be heard. After my comments, the time will be turned over to administrative staff for an overview of the matter being considered during this hearing. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to address and be questioned by council. Others who wish to address council will also be given that opportunity to provide comments, hearing first from those speaking in support, then in opposition to the application. Council may question presenters if they feel a need for clarification. We ask that comments be brief and limited to 5 minutes for the applicant who is not present, and 3 minutes for others who wish to address council. Any individual wishing to speak must first be recognized by the chair. Once recognized, please state your name. All statements should be directed to council. After council has heard from those who wish to submit comments, the applicant will be given a brief opportunity to respond to the issues raised. The hearing will then be adjourned and council will consider the input provided when the matter is dealt with by council as a whole. So those rules in order will carry forward with Maria to open us up.
Thank you. The purpose of this application is to redesignate the lands at the Bassano Airport from Business Rural District and Special Parks and Public Service to Direct Control District. It is recommended that council consider the objections be heard and consider giving second and third reading to this bylaw. The parcel is directly north of the town of Bassano. The lots are privately owned, with a majority of the lots owned by the town of Bassano. There was a subdivision that was completed in 2023 by the town to create additional lots and refigure existing lots to allow for development-ready parcels. So the new lots are a little bit bigger and a little bit more manageable for airport use of this time. The intention of the direct control district is to allow for streamlined development, encouraging economic and financial viability of the airport while also ensuring safe and effective operations. There were concerns raised by an adjacent landowner, and they live directly across from the existing airport. These concerns included noise, viewscapes, and property value. So council can consider that there are avenues the county can use to mitigate these concerns. There's bylaw 2074-24, community standards, which includes policy that is used to control noise of the adjacent landowners or adjacent land uses. The proposed direct control district includes less uses than the current business rural district. The proposed district is intended to keep the uses compatible with the airport. The Land Use Bylaw contains policy that states building character and appearance may be considered in the review of proposed development to ensure consistency with the prescribed district and compatibility with the nearby buildings. So once administration would get a development permit for something new proposed at the Bassano Airport, the Development Authority can include specific conditions such as hours of operation, screening, landscaping, and appearance of buildings when reviewing the development permit application to reduce impact on the surrounding lands. So an example of this is the landowner had indicated that there is a stunt pilot that has a hangar at the Bassano Airport. So if there is another application for something like that, we could discuss with them hours of operation, when it would be best suited for, that type of operation. Things to help mitigate the nuisance factor on the adjacent lands. There were no comments or concerns from internal county departments or referral agencies. The letter from the adjacent landowner was included in your package. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And I stand corrected. I believe the applicant is online. Is that correct, Catherine? No. Okay. All right. I am not corrected. All right. So is there anybody to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody to speak in opposition to the application? Lori, would you like to come forward? Yeah, just let us know right up here to the front. Maria will turn the microphone on for you so everybody can hear. And just know that we did receive your letter.
Right.
And we appreciate hearing your thoughts.
Well, as we said in our letter, we've been there for 41 years, and it was all agricultural land. We didn't object when the airport was built, but now we do have some concerns. And like I said, we have one stunt pilot, and in my letter I said he has been fairly considerate about his times of operation. We worry that if too many come, there should be a scheduled time that they can operate. And I had one issue with one of the, what do you call them? The crop dusters?
Yeah.
We realize you have to have them. But this fellow, I was sitting on the back deck and he came straight at me. I mean, up high. I mean, he wasn't going to hit my house. And we object to that because, A, it's dangerous, we think. B, if he is spraying some sort of chemical, he came across our pasture, across our home yard, and over our head. He saw me watching him, and he didn't make that loop again. So I think he realized that. So I think some of those should be kind of, I don't know how you patrol it, but I think they should be kind of regulated and set out as regulations. Then we are concerned, like all of our windows, and I know that progress is not going to stop because of where we look, but all of our windows face towards the airport. And we are concerned about it remaining attractive, and we would suggest, I have a thing about these sea cans. You know, some of them are pretty ratty and ugly, and I don't think anybody would enjoy looking out their dining room window, eating their Christmas dinner and looking at ugly sea cans. So if that is going to go through, we think there should be some regulations. In my letter, I pointed out that I had phoned, I think, 6 other small towns that have airports. Only one has sea cans on them. And that one, they said that they were going to make them all be painted the same color, and that any future hangar owners would not be bringing any more on. And so I thought, well, why are other airports not allowing them? And so if it has to be, we would recommend or request that they all be painted like, most of the hangars are that light gray color, that they be painted that, be parked very close to their hangars, and hopefully on the east side, so that they're not, when you come into Bassano, it's a pretty attractive entrance to Bassano. And I think to keep it attractive, that these containers would have to be made more attractive. What else was I going to say? I think that was about it. Was there anything else in my letter that I should address?
No, just the property.
Oh, yeah, and like, I'm probably a little biased, but our property is a pretty unique piece of property. It's an 80-acre parcel, and our fence is the town border, because my dad had sold them 80 acres probably 45 years ago. We've had several people want to buy this, and we feel that some of this could reduce the value of our property. Don't know. Don't have a crystal ball. So that is a concern of ours. And is there to be any compensation for kind of the disruptions in our life? Because if you sat in our dining room sometimes, you can't have a conversation, you can't watch television, is terribly noisy. So I think some regulations must be put into place if it's going to expand. I have, we have to say that the regular guys that have hangars, the regular pilots, they don't create a problem at all. Like they're in, they're out. It's not a very busy airport, except for a couple of individuals. And we don't intend to stop all that. That's not what our request is. We're just asking that some regulations be put in, and the airport itself is kept attractive so that we're not looking at a mess.
Yep.
And I think that is what Les and I kind of worry about, is if you get storage containers and other stuff around there, it starts to look a little shabby. And maybe if there was some kind of regular just spot check to make sure that people weren't accumulating garbage and stuff around their hangars, because that has happened before. So, does anybody have a question for me? Guess not.
Okay.
So,
thank you. We really appreciate you coming in and backing up your letter and your concerns. And I really hope that by putting this under direct control, that we can address 99% of those concerns that you brought up better than the way we could before. So I think we're heading in the right direction, Lori. Okay?
but just try to keep it, please try to keep it attractive. I don't see the need for the sea cans if no other airports need them. But if they're going to be there, I think they should all be painted the same color and blend in with the rest of the airport.
Okay.
Thank you, folks, for listening to us.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, I would entertain a motion to come out of out of public hearing. Yes, I'm stuck on camera. Public hearing. Amanda.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we are officially, once we vote on it, all in favor of Amanda's motion, that is carried. I think it's soon break time, right? All right. So we heard great comments from our ratepayers, great suggestions. Maria, it seems like we can move on to the next portion. Public hearing is over. Bylaw. Would you like to set us up for that? Go ahead.
So now that the public hearing is closed, council has the opportunity to consider second reading for bylaw 2088-25. There is an opportunity to make amendments to what is proposed based on what was heard at the public hearing, or move as presented.
Thank you. That's 8.1 on your agenda. Holly?
Do you feel that what is written is going to meet the concerns of the ratepayers who are just here, like in terms of the sea cans, and do you feel that is covered in the bylaw?
Maria?
I know the town of Bassano puts a lot of emphasis on cleanly, attractive development. So in partnership with the town of Bassano, I do see that happening. There was discussion with Bassano about the shipping containers, because we know that there's all sorts of different types. So right now we have shipping container up to a maximum of 2. That could be changed if you want 0 or none, or they're all discretionary. That would give us the opportunity to say, okay, you can have a shipping container, but it has to be painted, and it has to be painted so that it is compatible with the adjacent lands. This direct control district does specifically state that the principal building must be established prior to the development of any other structures. So the hangar has to be established before a CCAN can be put into place. So I think that make sure that the landowner has skin in the game before they start putting anything else on there. And then it would be in their best interest to keep it attractive, but that is also in the eye of the beholder. We also have that no outdoor storage of recreation vehicles. So I think that, that really limits the uses to airport uses. But that can be changed at the discretion of council. Like I had said before, there is policy in the land use bylaw that states that any development needs to be compatible and meet the characteristics of the existing development. So if we start off strong, then we should end up strong as well.
So do you feel your question was answered?
I think it would be a great idea to make the sea cans need to be painted. I think we've done that in other places. I think that's just kind of like a baseline for my way of thinking.
Anybody else? Neil?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we have done it several times where we've enforced painting a sea can. So it's not asking that much.
Okay. Is it, I mean, you're asking for second and third reading today, right? Yep, go ahead, Maria.
Council could consider second reading with amendments. And then I could take these amendments back and we could present it for third reading at another meeting. There's no urgency in adopting this bylaw.
Okay. All right. Do you want to make a motion, Amanda?
Maria, I just have a,
Your mic is off.
what about the noise factor? What can be done about that? Or do we have anything that?
Yep, Maria.
The county does have the community standards bylaw. So if the noise is outside of what would regularly be expected, then the COs can go in and do something that way. We could include, so there's another bylaw 2090 that will be coming to council soon that has some regulations for airports within the county, so not specific to Bassano. We could at that time look at potentially including something as far as noise. I'd have to do a little bit more research because airports are federally regulated, so I can familiarize myself a little bit more with what's required federally.
Okay. Holly, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, I will make a motion for second reading.
As amended.
As amended.
Mm-hmm. That's why I went to Holly, because it was your suggestion. So, are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of Holly's motion? That is carried. Thanks, Maria. And we'll see that back for third reading in a couple weeks. Yeah, all right. All right, folks, where are we at on our agenda?
11.1.
Okay, that's where I was looking. Perfect. We have some policies to look at. We're going to work for about 5 more minutes and then we'll take a lunch break, okay? 11.1. Thank you.
Morning, Council. Doing some housekeeping through policies. We're trying to get these to you by the end of March. I don't think we're going to make that deadline, but we're going to get pretty close. And then this council will have had the opportunity to weigh in on all of the policies that we have on the books. There's this older policy from 2009 when apparently council was invited into the kitchen. I'm disinviting council into the kitchen when it comes to salary negotiations. Since this policy has been in place, we've had several updates of the county's personnel policy, which outlines our procedure for salary grid maintenance, application of the cost of living adjustment. I think it's been about 2 union negotiations where there has not been a council committee that was invited into the room for negotiating directly with union. And, you know, I'm just going to have to do a little humble brag for Mark and how quickly he's able to get through those union negotiations. We've got great staff on the union side of things, and we've had pretty good luck coming to a meeting of the minds there. So recommendation from your administration is this is a good policy for considering rescinding.
Would somebody like to make that a motion? Lynette?
I'll make the motion to rescind that policy.
All in favor? That is carried. (209) PLG 005. Yeah, we just did that. Do you want to go down to RMA? Okay, let's do that. Ariana, Matt?
It's me.
Okay.
It's an update. Okay, so we still waiting to hear back from the Minister of Transportation for a meeting. Everyone's registered who is attending. Everyone's in the courses that needs to attend those. I just need two things today. So we have a meeting with the Minister of Environment and Protected Areas. They need the list of attendees. They suggested maximum of 3 due to the space limitations of their office. And as mentioned earlier, you also have the opportunity to meet with the commanding officer of RCMP K Division. So if you would like that, we will respond, and they would like a list of topics. So that's it.
We would put Arno at the top of the attendee list each time. And 2 more counselors that have a relevance. Holly?
Because I'm on the CDC committee, I would like to go to that one. As well, I'm wondering with Drishan, can we draft a letter requesting a speed reduction on Highway 1? We've talked about that and we just can't seem to get him to meet with us. What's that about? Speed reduction? Oh, just from the highway. No, it won't, but perhaps it might draw attention to it, the JBS and the 36 interchange, that whole area. I mean, we've had way too many accidents. So I'm just suggesting that since we've been trying for a number of years to meet with Mr. Drishan and he has not accepted a meeting with us yet.
So I hear 2 issues there, yeah. And I don't want to confuse them, okay? Because we need to be on side with the 80-kilometer-an-hour zone, first of all. And then the second is, item is the minister not accepting our meeting request.
Oh, I'm saying if he doesn't, like we could do it in person with him, or we could send a letter, and given that we've asked previously, I don't think we're going to get a meeting. We're quite late already, I would think, if we haven't heard. Okay. Is it a potential we still would? I'm just thinking it's fairly close already. You would know better than I would, Ariana.
Potential, they sent out a meeting saying to submit your request for meetings by the end of January, I think. So we did that, and they responded that they were still setting up, I think they called it duty order or something very specific like that. So I think it's still in the works.
Okay, so there's still a possibility. So now we need to have the conversation about whether or not the 80-kilometer-an-hour zone is an initiative of ours, because we've never had that conversation. I'll ask Holly.
I brought that up previously when we talked about meeting with Drishan. I've raised it previously here, so I have raised it. And it's been raised by some other people with me because we've been waiting for a number of years to have some action in the 36 number 1 interchange, and there has been numerous accidents there. Many places in number 1, if you drive through to Manitoba, as I do frequently, there are many intersections that have a flashing light and an 80 zone because they're high traffic areas. And I really don't know why the 36 number 1 has not had one given the accidents, and I think we should be requesting that for the safety of our ratepayers and motorists passing through the area.
Okay. So that is your pitch, and it's not the first time I've heard it. Not from Holly, mind you, but from other people. Some people think it should just be around JBS corner. Some people think it should be at Highway 36. Like, so this one is for the whole thing, which would be what, 2 miles? Probably, maybe a little greater. It kind of reminds me of the Chestermere stretch, right? Around that curve at Chestermere. It's not even around a curve, okay. So is that something that this council would be on side with requesting? A motion? Greg?
I'll just put my opinion in. I think it's a good thing, but it doesn't need to be the whole stretch. I think that's, there's no other real intersections between JBS and Highway 36, so it could come down, up, and then down again. I don't have a problem with that. I'm for something done there.
Slow down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's quite a difference, and then there's enforcement too. You know, if you're 80 for a mile and then back to 110 and then down to 80 again, that's... So we should be on side if we're requesting this. Yeah, Matt.
To save council from having to get too specific into a engineer's wheelhouse, you could simply ask that it be looked at as an option in the interim as you're waiting for the interchange to be built.
Okay.
And then they can look at all the options, take JBS into consideration as well, and what may or may not work. They can reflect on what has worked or not worked with Chestermere as well.
Adina.
Well, because my family were the ones that it first initiated that reduction in speed out by Chestermere at the intersection, I could speak to them to find out what exactly what they did to get that through. The other thing is this RDF, she was looking for people who wanted to meet with Rebecca Schultz, Minister Schultz, and I would like to put my name on there too. So 2 things.
Okay, so that fills that spot then. I'll just close that off. So let's take a straw poll then. If there's no motion, let's just take a straw poll. Are we in favor of the reduction? Yeah. Advocating. Okay. Okay.
We do need, the more lights flashing out there, the better.
Okay, so.
That's a great way to put it. I like that.
Advocating for safety on that stretch of highway. Without a motion, it's just a straw poll, but it gives our councillors the direction as to how we're advocating. We can't be talking about an 80-kilometer zone if we're talking only safety. We have to be on the same page here. Yeah, Holly.
So if we say we're advocating for safety, is that too wide? Does that mean we put up a poster saying, like, I don't know what that language means, advocating for safety. It sounds nice, but when the minister's office gets it, I don't think that gives them really anything to work with. I think that's too broad.
Yeah, okay. Lynette?
I would be curious to hear if the slowing down to 80 through Chestermere or wherever else they've done it has actually decreased the amount of accidents or not, or if it's just annoying to the rest of us travelers.
Yeah. So it sounds like a conversation with the minister without advocacy in one direction or another is an option. Great.
Yeah, I think the Chestermere, I don't think that's a real great example. I do think that common sense indicates that if we put an 80 at those two intersections, means that there is a high chance of a higher chance of accidents happening at those intersections. So yeah, it makes the new drivers that are aware that haven't driven through that area before, say coming from Saskatchewan, from Medicine Hat, whatever, that is an issue. That those two intersections are issues. So slow down and it makes people a little more aware and gives them a little bit more stopping time. That's all. So I think it's important.
Okay. Are you fine? We didn't really come to a conclusion on this conversation as a council, but we do know that we want a meeting with transportation. Mm-hmm. Matt?
Well, what administration has heard, what we'd be putting in front of the Minister of Transportation if we've secured that, is safety options around that stretch of road just to the west of the 36 all the way to east of 19-2 or 15-0. Sorry, I'm getting my township and range roads messed up there.
Okay.
Good enough to start a conversation. Administration is opposed to building roads which are engineered for 110 kilometers an hour and rolling that back to 80. Mm-hmm. So if the intersection is safe by engineered design standards and we're dealing with a number of road users who aren't driving safely, which typically the case when you're getting into a wreck there. Now, having said that, I don't want to be portrayed as somebody who's happy to see people in accidents there. So if there's more to be contemplated that keeps the traffic moving and people safe, yeah, let's have that conversation with the minister and see what those guys have going on. Understanding they're working on the 1 and 36 overpass design. We've got the Gun Club road improvements coming with the new access road. Hopefully there should be a big change in how traffic flows around JBS. But the 36 is a live question as well.
And it would definitely shine a spotlight on just by having the conversation. So, all right. Thank you. Let's break for lunch, 12:10. Okay. Round in favor of. The conversation is elevating. Welcome back, Ellen. Thanks for coming back. 12.2, we are going to let it continue to be tabled. The answers did not come in time for council's information today, so we're going to carry that forward to the next council meeting. So we are down to committee reports. 11.3. Economic EDA Ministry. Thank you. Okay. I ticked it off as if it was done. All right, so request has been put forward. Ariana, do you want to open it up for us?
Sure, I guess mostly what I want to know, we attended for the first time last year, St. Arno and Greg. Tickets are available right now. There's 77 spots left of how many, I'm not sure, as of today. So I guess we just want to know if we want to continue attending this and who to assign to it, because it happens October 30th, which is after the election. The tickets are transferable, so we can change names on them. I could secure tickets in hotel rooms now, figure out who's going later. It's also October 30th, which is the day of the organizational meeting, and then the first MPC and council meeting of the new council.
Okay, well, I'll just say that I think that that's pretty important that everybody attend that as opposed to the EDA banquet. That's my thoughts. Adina?
I'd be curious for Greg's opinion on the benefits of going to that.
Okay, so just to summarize what happened that evening, it was a meal, no big deal. And then what happened is certain ministers came around to each table, and they just went. It was like 10 minutes at each, and then they switch. Yeah, speed dating almost like a thing. And just talked to, but it was, for the most part of me thinks that yes, it's important for us to have South representation at that, especially Southeast representation at that meeting, because it is so focused on the North. It is so focused on Calgary, mostly Edmonton, and North economic development. Yeah, and they had, so it was, and there was very few people from the South there, actually. I think it might not be a bad idea to send Mitch or our economic development person. And I just sat back. I had nothing really to say, to tell you the truth, because they were talking about things that I'm okay with economic development, but they were talking about all these grants and all these, especially the acronyms that I have no idea what they were talking about. So, yeah, was it worth it? It was worth it to have representation there, but did it benefit our economic development in the area? I don't think it did. So I don't know. I think it's important to have our economic development team there or person there, to tell you the truth. But
Holly?
Do you know, Greg, how many staff were there as opposed to elected officials? Did you get any read on that, if it was a 50-50 split? Or
yeah, I don't think there was as many elected officials as what there was for staff. The staff, there was more, seemed like at my table anyway, it was mostly staff. So, I mean, they all knew each other, it was like, but so I felt awkward being a counselor. There were some counselors there, but not, mostly staff.
So, Holly, does PEP attend?
Yes, PEP has attended for a number of years, and our chair has gone as well. Doug Jones has been there. He goes every year as well. And I don't know more than that, but I know PEP will be there. And I've been asked to go on behalf of PEP, but I couldn't go this past year. I was busy.
Yes, so we are represented through PEP. That we pay them, so. Holly?
So I'm understanding that likely the organizational meeting and that is not changeable. Is that correct? Yeah, so then I think maybe we should just forego this year and let a new council decide the year after.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel as well, so let's. Yep, thank you. Thank you, Ariana. 11.4, functions of council. Are there any requests for functions of council? February, we're into March. Our next council meeting is March 6th. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Lynette?
Neil had brought this up to me. There's a conference that has to do with energy to waste, the whole circular environment thing. It's in Edmonton. It's just a one-day deal. But I haven't talked to Ray about the details of it, but it is March 10th. So I just thought bring it up now and see if anybody thinks that would be worth, because it has to do with recycling and the talk, like, circular economy would, in a perfect world, mean that we really have no garbage, right? So the whole energy to waste facilities would be null and void. But I'm thinking that that's a pipe dream. But this is supposed to be, there's several sessions and some different debates on it and stuff like that. So I will find out more, but I was wondering if that could be a function of council if I do decide to go.
Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, Ray, it's actually a debate and a portion of it, and Ray is on the side of a Sewa type project, and there's the other side of it is the recycling. But it's, I think it'd be a real informative for anybody that wanted to go, especially because we're getting tied up pretty close with Global Green to create our own energy from waste project here.
Okay.
So I would make that a motion that if a couple wanted to go, or Lynette for sure, it's a function of council.
Good deal.
Anybody else wants to go too?
When is it?
March 10th. So I heard a couple different parts of your motion. Are you suggesting 2, which is typical?
Well, 2 would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, like I say, I don't care who goes. But Lynette should go for sure because she's on the recycling committee.
Yeah.
And the rest of us.
Adine is also a volunteer there.
Right.
So. Send 2? I think that's Neil's motion.
Yeah. You want to go, Adina?
I would go if Lynette goes, but I'm not sure I want to go by myself.
Okay, well, how about the motion is that you two go and pick somebody else if Lynette doesn't want to go.
Okay, we've heard Neil's motion. All in favor of the motion? That is carried then. Thank you. Any other functions of council? Not a function of council, but I'll just remind everybody that the EID AGM is March the 4th at the Heritage Inn at 1:30. All right, carrying on. Committee reports. We have several. I'm going to start at the bottom this time. Greg. Veterans Memorial Highway.
All right, being on the bottom. So we had a kind of a spur of the moment meeting on Zoom for the VMHA yesterday. And the reason for the emergency meeting was, I guess the society hasn't been registered with the Alberta government since 2019. So we had to have this surprise meeting in order to make motions and vote on all the financials and everything since then, and approval to register with the Alberta government as a society again. So we've got that done, and that was the main purpose for that meeting. So I was a little surprised that we weren't, that organization was not a society. So it was kind of interesting, but that's my report.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Greg? No? Sewa. Neil.
Sewa actually has some good news. They finalized their MOU this morning, signed it, which lets them go ahead and interact between Global Green and whatever municipalities want to partake. First one is going to be Newell, which will happen this afternoon. They'll officially put the project in motion as far as Solid Waste Authority goes. Other than that, Vulcan County quit Sewa, which was a really good news item. I'm not sure where Sewa is going to go after this, but it's pretty well completed its mission and brought the energy from waste facility here, and that's it. Mission accomplished. So it is nice to deliver a good news story about Sewa, because I haven't been able to do that very often to you guys for the last couple of years. So that's it for that one.
Going up the lineup here, Newell Regional Solid Waste.
I forwarded the council the agenda for our meeting this afternoon. I also forwarded the minutes from the last meeting. So you all know that we're making money hand over fist. And the whole board, all 5 partners, are extremely excited to get this energy from waste project on the go. So I would say that's a good news story too. And I haven't had any complaints to deal with at the landfill. So I guess none of our county people have been out there.
Has the Newell Recycling and Newell Regional Solid Waste met to?
Oh, that's in motion. First, they have to have their meeting. Lynette can confirm that the thing's in process. Just doesn't happen overnight. First, they have to have their meeting. Then we'll have a meeting with them and iron out our next year. What did you say? Comment, please, Lynette.
We had our meeting and we discussed what needs to be presented to Newell Regional Solid Waste. We spoke about making sure that all of the board members get a copy of what we are sending out so that everyone knows. And that's where that is right now. So they're getting the paperwork set up because we need more stable funding, right? The association needs to be able to count on their funding. So that's where we're going.
So the conversation is ongoing. Yep, good. At least it's begun. Any other questions for Neil on solid waste? Okay. Holly, Grasslands FCSS.
just wanted to share that we are meeting this Saturday to do our update on strategic planning. So that's where Amanda and I get to spend our Saturday. We're quite excited about it.
Full of good news today.
City of Brooks Recreation and Parks, Greg and Neil.
Okay, yeah, Neil, correct me if I'm off board on this. So the part of the agenda yesterday was to find out what our status is on the approval of small grant funding through the Parks and Recreation Society up to $500. This would be for things like swimming passes for hockey teams, raffle bags at certain things to put some free passes in there, family passes, up to $500. We've in the past had approval on. The policy has been. I don't know. I think the policy has always been in place. It not necessarily has been changed, but it has been enforced that we, as a board, have no longer the authority to approve these small donations anymore. It's gonna, each of these donations requests are gonna actually go directly to the City of Brooks for council to approve or not approve, which Neil and I especially were a bit upset about, because this is one of the reasons that we are on that board, is to help with approval. Anything over $500, we also do a recommendation to the City Council to approve or not approve, and a recommendation letter would go from the chair to the City of Brooks for those kind of things. But we have these requests every meeting. There's at least 2 usually every meeting, and now we're down to 0 each meeting, and everything's going to the City of Brooks. So that was a bit of a change, and the council members at the city had indicated that this will get corrected. So we'll see what happens there. Plus, the skateboard park is gonna, it's all been approved and everything. And tendering is done, and they'll start moving dirt here once the frost is gone. And then there was talk about lights around the pathway at Lake Stafford. So they've got a grant, a 60% funding grant for that type of project. So they're going to work on that. It's about a $200,000 touch for lighting around Lake Stafford. And that's anything else, Neil?
No, good job. Good memory.
Thanks.
Will the lights be solar powered?
No, they won't be. Solar powered in our area is difficult for these lights, because they do need to be cleaned quite often. Plus, because of winter and limited sunshine, shorter days and longer nights, they need to be on longer. So there'll be times when there is no lighting because there's not enough, and they're problematic, and they're about the same cost, but they're not as reliable.
Thank you. Anything else, Greg? Nope. Any other questions for Greg? Seeing none. Brooks Region Tourism. Adina.
Just a couple of things. Bank account still doing well. We haven't had any requests for experiences lately, so we still got some money in that, but I guess we have till the end of March to give that away. Just to mention it again, The Fishing the Wild West TV show is coming this summer, so she's working on that. Stay tuned for exact dates. Hopefully today, we have a meeting today. Hopefully I get that. And also the other thing we're working on, which I'm pretty excited about for today, is she's actually done up some strategic priorities. So that's a good thing. And also after today's meeting, I will be able to give you the best of, well, she calls it the best of Brooks survey, you know, the best places to eat, the best bakeries, the best places, the best events. So hopefully next meeting I can give you the best of that. That's all I got.
So I'm going to ask the question, is that all it is the best of Brooks?
All right, since it's in here for the meeting for today, the 5 places to shop, all in the city of Brooks. Okay, best of Brooks region survey.
Okay.
5 places to eat, all in the city of Brooks. 2 best coffee shops, also in Brooks. Top 5 activities, Dinosaur Park, Brooks Bandits games, enjoying the lake and beaches, camping and golfing. And then the top 3 events, Canada Day events, Brooks Farmers Market, and the rodeo.
The rodeo. There are 2 pro rodeos in the region. Yeah, okay. Point made. Joint shared services, my report, and Lynette and Greg can chime in. We heard that there's possibility for advocacy around the Brooks Aqueduct revitalization. It seems like there's an interest by Jamie and specifically Lisa Tiffin at the city to do some work out there and make it a destination. Presently it's run down and it is an Alberta tourist spot, but Alberta government has let it go, and apparently now if you were to want to make it a destination, you have to take out a permit to use it. So if you're ever with the minister, I think keep Brooks Aqueduct in your minds and top of topic to see if we can make some changes out there. The terms of reference is coming at our next meeting. It was held over. Our CAOs met, and are you on the writing committee or you are? Cool, okay. So it'll be coming to the next joint services meeting. And of course, Alberta Chamber of Commerce Conference is being held in Medicine Hat in May, I believe it is. I didn't bring that. And so if anybody's interested, we may or may not have tickets available. But just know that Alberta small businesses are coming to Medicine Hat as Southeast Alberta is hosting. And that's it for joint services. Mm-hmm.
That aqueduct revitalization, I think, ties in pretty good with the CDC thing out there. It's the same area and should be a good project.
Mm-hmm. It hits a different ministry, though, because it's a tourist site. And so, yeah, there's some, but just keep it on your lips and talk about it, because right now it's kind of like the campsite was out at Lake Newell.
It's a real dump. I took some cousins out there last fall.
Did you?
That were in town. What's that?
Did you have a permit? The question.
You wouldn't waste your time getting a permit for that, but it could be a nice spot.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, is there a reason for in camera today? Any other person requesting in camera conversation? Brooks Region Tourism.
Shortgrass Library.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That was on the first column.
I
went by it.
I have something to say, so.
Okay, please, go. Sorry about that.
The library has started a subscription for everyone, though, and it's a streaming movie service called Canopy. So with your library card, you can, a lot of it's children's, like they've got 3 modules that they've subscribed to right now. 2 of them are mostly children programming, and 1 of them is British cinema. So apparently that's an intrigue for a lot of people to be able to watch British TV. It's not TV so much as it's more movies and stuff like that. But anyway, thought that was kind of cool and exciting. You can access it from your library's website with your library card. Also, this has been going for a while, but not very publicized. They call it L2U for people who are physically unable to come to the library. They would be able to, they basically mail you things then, and then you mail them back for physically disabled. Yeah, so thought that was kind of neat.
Cool, thank you. Sorry about that. I totally went over that. If there's nothing else, I will adjourn the meeting.